Hey guys, I'm going to show you how to do the bass line from Full Tilt Boogie remix that I made with Sticky Buds. So this is what it sounds like. Cool. So let's get started. I'm going to put the same MIDI information into a new channel, and we're going to start with massive here. Where's my massive? There we go. Okay, I'm going to start with clicking new sounds, and I'm going to add a square wave down the bottom here, full intensity. And first thing I'm going to do as well is change the pitch bend range, because in our MIDI information here we've actually got a few pitch bends. So we're starting at an octave higher than 0, and it slides down to 0. It kind of like bounces up and down here. Which is pretty neat. Let's drop this couple of octaves. 24. That's pretty sweet. I'll turn the drums off as well while we're doing this. Oscillator 2, polysaw. We'll go 1 octave down. I'm just going to play with the wavetable position until I find a spot that I kind of like. Listen to it on its own, actually. I like it there. Top oscillator, I'm going to add in a multiplex and 2 octaves below. Let's hear that on its own as well, actually. So it's kind of like the polysaw. And you end up with like a big chord sounding bass line, basically. Yeah, I'm just going to turn my speaker volume up a little bit. Oh, too loud. And I'm going to actually tweak the volume of the multiplex, just so it's not too overbearing. About there, sounds pretty good to me. Now while we're in the OSC tab here, there's a thing here called Oslo Phases, and if we turn this button on, it restarts the phase of each oscillator every time, so you sort of get a more consistent sound, and the phases of each oscillator kind of link up, like they sort of sync up a little bit. But I also like to mess with the what the phasing of each oscillator and where it starts. So let's play with that. It's subtle, but you can kind of hear the difference. That sounds pretty cool. And we also want a shit ton of vibrato. So the vibrato, we want to turn the mono button on, because we don't want any stereo kind of vibrato happening. And this is already set up for us when we click to new sound. But I like to have a little bit more depth usually, which is kind of like the range in which it vibrates the pitch. And to activate that, I'm going to click this arrow, configure, and then move this knob. So these two knobs are sort of linked to this one macro knob. And now over here, if we group this, Control G or Command G, click the little macro knobs button, we can then macro this to an easy knob here in Ableton that we can automate. So let's get some vibrato here on the start note. Sweet. Okay. Let's get back to it here. I'm going to add some distortion in, a little bit of hard clipping, and also a little bit of Brawner tube, which is another distortion. going to back off quite a bit on that one because it's pretty intense. And add in a couple of distortions here. What that does is it kind of, every time you distort something, it just adds more harmonics, and the more harmonics there are, the more kind of full your bass line will sound. So just by adding a little bit of, of distortion here, a little bit of distortion there, it all kind of adds up to make a nice full sound. We'll get a little bit of dimension expanding going, which will just widen the sound slightly, because I'm going to turn it right back a little bit. And we'll EQ the high shelf up just a smidge. There we go. Sounding cool so far. Now let's do a little trick here. Midi Effects, I'm going to add in a velocity effect, and I'm going to turn the random knob up here. So this will just essentially randomize the velocity, and in Massive I can put the velocity controls onto any knob. So basically what we're achieving here is a randomization of any knob in Massive. And I'm going to apply it to the amplitude of the polysaw here, so that basically every time a note is played, it decides on a random value for the amplitude and then plays it. So cool. And what that does, I guess it kind of like makes the sound different every time you play it. Just gonna drink some water. And I like it how you can kind of have a random sound without really doing a lot of automation. So I'm going to turn this filter on to daft, turn the resonance down, and we'll apply envelope 1 to it. And we're going to do the same kind of concept with the velocity here. I'm going to have like a nice short attack and decay. And let's put the velocity on the level here so that every time the note's played, it chooses a different level for this cutoff. And I'm gonna put the envelope on here, just so this is kind of wiggling around as well. Yeah, and I like the fact that it's sort of random and the note changes every time it's played. So that's basically all we're going to do in Massive. What I'm going to do now is add one of my favorite effects, Isotope Allo 2, and use a Transient Shaper. And what that does is kind of makes the very start of each note kind of slap you on the face. It's got a lot of pop. So I'm going way overboard here just to let you know what it sounds like. But I'll usually set it to like around there, just so that like the sound has a lot of attack and it just punches a lot, you know. And the exciter is another distortion essentially, but the thing I like about this is you can add width to the distortion. So if we turn up the drive, I also like the warm section because it's not as intense as the other three. But if you turn up the width, it kind of widens the sound as well and distorts it, which is cool because you're adding harmonics, width, and all those things make for a nice big fat bass. So let's hear what this sounds like. Actually going to tone this back a little bit. Yeah, that's pretty cool. And let's add an auto filter in as well, and we'll put this in a rack, Command G, and I'm going to add another chain here. So we've got one chain here, which will be our effect chain, and the other chain is just and the other chain will just be a dry signal. And we'll map the dry signal to this macro knob, dry, and we'll mark chain volume the effects one here. And if we click map, we can sort of just make the maximum of these, the highest. See, right now that goes up to 6 dB. Let's just make that 0 for both of them, so we can't turn it up any louder than it already is. And alright, so we'll turn the drive for the time being. What we're going to do with this auto filter is set it to bandpass mode, and we'll set it sort of in the mid to high range here, and just turn up the amount a little bit, and we'll just leave the rate as is. And what's going to happen is this is going to sweep around, and on the left channel it's going to be like down here, while the right channel is up here, and then they'll sort of switch positions slowly, and it sounds like this. And that's really like widens up the sound and gives it a bit of movement. And I'm just going to duplicate this channel and change the rate a little bit and the amounts, and just move this a little bit, and then I'll do it a third time, just so we've got, you know, a lot of movement happening. So let's hear just the effect. So you can sort of hear it sweeping from side to side slowly. And let's turn the dry up. It's actually pretty fucking loud. I'm just going to turn this down. Yeah, that's basically the idea behind it. Let's compare that with the original. We could probably just EQ up the highs a little bit around this sort of area. And what I would normally do is... Oh, what's going on? What's going on? Oh, fuck's sake. Okay. Don't buy a PC, guys. Alright. Yeah, so what I'll usually do is EQ the sub range out and add a separate sub, and kind of then I can sort of control the volume between the sub and the high crunchiness of the bass line. And I'll just EQ like the mid range here. So yeah, that's the basic idea. I hope this tutorial helps with your sound design, and you can make one of these little bandpass filter sweeper thingies, and yeah, get out there and make some cool bass lines. Alright, peace.